Hello, myself Sunil R and here basically we are talking about uh, one person basically told that basically I am not getting the job, and basically if I am not getting the job, then basically uh, he basically talking with the one of the World Bank person. Basically, this basically just take as an example. In real, basically there is no like World Bank person basically. Here basically just I am taking as a virtual. So if you are talking with any World Bank person, basically, then how we will talk basically. So that topic actually is going. So in this basically we saw yesterday basically, and we basically saw one global warming chart basically. That global warming chart basically says that education basically that is 100% global warming error, right? From 100%, where are the data basically? Education contains 20 percentage, foods contains 20 percentage, mood basically contains like romantic mood, working mood, education mood, each and every mood contains 10 percentage. Then basically categories basically, which are basically sports, television, this contains everything, entire television industry, 10 percentage. Then basically sleeping basically contain 15 percentage, but you sleep more than 10-12 hours basically, that time basically this keeps generation. That basically is the data basically that we will discuss basically. Then basically it's 5 percentage basically is coming from the idea, reason it connects and disconnects. Then basically the software industry basically contains 20%, same as the education basically industry industry basically generating the error basically, that same percentage, so 20 percentage. Then basically the hardware people basically, they basically also generate 10 percentage. So one by one, basically, we will discuss this data. Basically, 1% basically told that education is generating 20 percentage. Then in education, basically, 1% told that basically entire education might not be containing 20 percentage. It might possible that few education might be containing 20 percentage. So for that, basically, you have to categorize the stream. Basically, for that, basically, they have categorized also. The education industry basically told that basically in future, basically, it might create problem. So just categorize the stream basically. So they basically told that basically there are commercial level sector, science level sector, arts level sector, and science basically contains medical industry, everything basically. But we will segregate this science into the medical industry also. So there are basically assume that four sectors: commercial, science, art level, and basically the medical industry. That is basically totally different industry basically. So but that contain in science also, that contains science, that contains commerce also, that contains arts also basically. Because the reports basically which you get from the report lab report, that basically you need to identify basically how basically, because that design actually is the design of the cities basically, cities to cities basically, and where basically the error basically has occurred basically. So that basically required the arts also knowledge also basically. So like this basically this contain the this basically contains the categories basically we were discussing. In categories we basically saw each and everything. Then basically we saw education sector, television sector, then basically the sleeping industry. Then sleeping basically we can say that basically these all are the industry basically, because these all are basically things are handled by the industry only basically by default basically. By default they are handling by the industry basically. One person told that basically when basically you are having romantic mood basically, then which of the object basically from that house basically that attracts to you, and basically your mood basically change. Then he told that basically, do you know basically that iron basically created the window basically which is created. Then he told that yes, basically window is created from iron basically, so that basically is attracting you. But it's not possible that every day basically that will attract you. That basically depends upon the power supply basically, with the power supply chain basically the company is passing basically. Then basically it was that basically idea, so ideas basically are connected with this only, that are basically the software industry, natural chemicals. Then basically the software, computers, networking basically, this is also basically containing 20 percentage, and hard work basically contains 10 percentage. and hard work basically is also connected with these formulas only. So in detail we will discuss this basically. First is education sector basically. The education sector contains MBA, this whole thing basically, right? Then basically one person told that basically this has segregated in the commercial sector, medicine sector, then in the art sector, and then basically into the medicine sector. Medicine sector and medical department basically totally we have segregated that, because it's totally different basically. So you can't merge with the science basically. But science stream only basically group can join this medical industry, because it's basically physics formula basically are there, and medicine basically keeps on changing, so you have to remember the medicine name also. That on that basically only science stream basically can do that, because their science basically subjects lots of hard words basically are there, that only basically science group basically can do. So from there basically the medicine name basically practice gets came to the picture, like this basically that's totally different industry basically. So medical industry basically, that's total industry, that basically you can say that it's a fourth stream basically. Then basically he told that basically this stream basically has been divided by each and every education groups basically. So one person told that basically it's a commerce. Then he told that basically in commerce basically BCom comes, MCom comes, 12th commerce comes, then chartered accountant degree comes, and basically ICWA comes. Lots of basically degree comes basically, and this is basically connected with the set of English words and then the formulas basically, that are basically the numbers, that are basically the number. For example, 1 plus 2, 3, 4,000 plus divided by 2, like this basically. These all are the division basically, right? This all are basically the symbol. Then one person told that this commerce basically sector basically are basically connected with the what actually. Then they told that basically that's basically for example, one person told that basically each and every basically sector in this world basically are divided with numbers, that basically everybody knows. One person told that what is the cost of that flat basically. Then he told that basically 35 35 lakh, 45 lakh. When he basically told that basically what is the cost of that flat basically, then he told that basically cost 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crore. Then he told that basically what is the cost of that basically. Then he told the cost of that flat basically. He told that 100 crore, 200 crore. So that basically says that the number basically are totally getting changed basically. Why? Because the area of the cities basically. According to, for example, if you in Vadodara city you ask the flat, that comes in 35, 45 lakh. If you ask the same rate from in Bangalore or Mumbai basically, that connects to 1 crore, 2 crore. Then basically if you ask that same rate basically in the Mumbai some posh area, that is basically the Pali Hill, and then basically the Nariman Point, there basically each and every Bandra, this all basically cost more than 100 crore basically. So like this basically the number basically connects here basically. So commerce basically is connected with the number, and the each and every number basically people says that basically this number basically we have given. For example, 100 crore we have given. Reason basically in 100 crore basically one number is there, and the rest of zeros basically are there. Then he told that basically why basically you have taken this number as a cost basically. That basically costing department basically has given this number basically. They basically say that basically we have this many buildings in this world basically. According to that basically each and every buildings basically are connected with some numbers basically. That number basically design is there in the universe basically. In universe basically, for example, one number is there. One number contains more than 100 planets basically, 100 crore planets. Two number basically says that basically there are 300 crore planets. Four number basically says that there are 700 crore planets. Zero number says that basically there are 5000 crore planets. So like this basically, in which number this particular building basically is supposed to be kept. Then basically they told that basically only the costing departments they are basically, and costing department basically by default are connected with the chartered accountant departments. That's why basically the chartered accountant basically many less people basically able to clear. Why? Because they are connected with each and every buildings basically in the world basically. So one person told that basically to find any cost basically, that's very dangerous thing here basically. Then he basically literally told, then he told that exactly basically that is not dangerous basically. You can add into infinity dangerous basically. Infinity dangerous cost project basically. This basically name basically you can give. So like this basically he told that this basically building contains 200 crore. So 2 contains 00 contains, that means you are connecting that these buildings data are going to be merged with this 2 number in the universe, and 00 basically in the universe basically. So he told that basically yes, basically you are exactly correct. You are basically exactly correct. So basically he told that basically in 2 number basically he told that basically the person basically who are staying, they basically are Gujaratis, they are basically Malayalis, they are Bengalis, they are from Odisha, they are basically from Maharashtrian, few basically are from Tamil Nadu, few are basically from Sanskrit group basically. Like this basically, few are basically from Jain basically, few basically are from that basically, few are from that basically, few are for English, we are for basically from France, we are basically from Italy, few are basically from South African language, we are from Tanzania language, we are basically from Arabic language. Like this basically, if you are basically from Brazilian language, if you are basically from Portugal basically, if you are basically from Portal language basically. Like this basically each and every language basically they have said. So he told that basically this 100 crore people basically, 100 crore amount basically we have told, they are going to place they are going to place you to that it's a 100. But here the main thing is basically uh, how basically how basically the this number basically has mapped basically. Then basically he told that basically in number basically the languages are also mapped like that basically you want to say. Then he told that that's basically design basically, that basically we can't understand, that only basically the IAS group basically have, because they say that basically we have passed this building. So they have passed this building on the base of what? In each and every world basically only Indian people have basically authority to sign the project. Why? Because each and every world basically is created on the base of Sanskrit and Tamil language, and on the base of Tamil and Sanskrit language the whole world has created basically. So Indian nationality basically has created each and every building in this world. If anything basically is happening in the universe basically, then Indian nationality will be responsible. That basically is open basically, openly told. Indian nationality, that is basically the group basically who authorize the basically the data basically, they are 100% responsible for this. So that's why basically lots of people say that basically we are visiting India, we are visiting, lots of US people say that yeah, we have to visit India. Why? Because the language basically is basically each and every cost basically of the building basically are calculated on the base of the chartered accountant group and basically the ICWA group. The chartered accountant group basically authorize each and everything, and they basically have the data of that. For example, in Mumbai basically this many buildings are basically there, so they basically their building cost basically, how they basically say that basically this is the cost, this is the cost, they basically literally basically they can't say that this will cost 1 crore, this will cost 2 crore. That basically they, that's why basically the builders basically say that basically that basically our account department basically we will do the costing basically. That's why basically to prepare building, to do the costing basically takes lots of time basically. It's not, otherwise building basically can be created in uh, 10-20 days also basically, because that type of material are also available in the market basically. But to have the costing basically, you have to you basically gets the number basically, that this is basically the this building basically we are creating, and this type of building basically in this world basically there are this type of this many buildings basically, that type of building basically in which number basically they are storing, because each and every building basically is costing na basically, each and every building basically that is costing some amount. So this building cost basically where basically we are going to put in universe basically, there are basically 0 to 1 number are basically are there, 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, like this basically numbers basically are there. So where basically each and every building basically data are going to put, that costing basically are decided, and that costing basically is literally approved by the high courts and supreme courts basically. This basically builder basically are not supposed to aware basically, that basically is look after of the chartered accountant and the ICW, because their sign basically is the value na? Their sign basically is the value. They pass the basically particular data basically, that this is the building there are basically 100 buildings basically which is created in the city basically. So this basically are the cost basically we have basically taken. So can you please verify this? So high court, supreme court basically, how basically they can verify this? That's basically literally with the question. Basically, they are not the chartered accountant. They are not the ICW people. So there basically they also basically have certain level of people basically who basically say that basically this data only basically the government have. This data only basically the government have basically that these buildings basically types of building basically are dumped into the they are basically dumped into the one number and this number basically are basically dumped into the two number like this basically numbers basically are there. So this number basically data is connected to this number basically data are connected to that data basically like this basically each and every basically buildings basically are basically connected here basically and like this basically each and every buildings basically are getting the costing and chartered accountant group basically say that basically this costing basically we have sent to the supreme court and high court basically that's their lookup basically then high court and supreme court told that basically we are not the chartered accountant here we are not the ICWA we basically how basically we should know the costing basically for that basically we have basically chartered account so each and every people basically say that basically we are not responsible so like this basically chartered account group says basically there basically your people basically might be having so like this one person literally asked the question so high court and supreme court basically are controlled by the set of professionals literally basically asked directly the question basically so one person told that basically there is no basically if basically some costing is basically getting wrong basically then basically here the supreme court and high court basically are not responsible because they are not the doctors they are not the chartered accountant basically they are not the ICWA group basically they have basically certain group basically who are basically the uh, authorized person basically to give the suggestions basically that suggestion is basically we can say this name as a report basically you can give this word as a report basically that this report basically they give that basically yeah basically this cost basically is correct this cost basically is not correct you can basically increase or decrease certain level of amount basically the number basically should be like this the number basically should be like this so just basically literally basically the things basically gets transferred to the so here basically one person told that there is supreme court and high court basically people basically are which kind of people here basically they basically rejects they sometimes accepts then basically they told that basically they have basically chartered accountant group basically they have ICWA groups basically they say that basically they basically say that basically this number is okay you can basically set into the and like this basically one of the group basically told that do you know basically in ISKCON temple basically that is the Sri Krishna God temple there basically lots of BMEs basically are working few basically MBA groups are also working basically then one person asked actually what they are doing basically they are not basically literally hired like this basically they are not literally hired like this basically so what actually they might be doing they might be doing this all things basically and in that basically the chartered accountant groups basically are also there same way basically each and every basically caste basically peoples basically are there for example in Christian also basically lots of fathers are basically there lots of popes basically are there like this basically each and every caste basically there are basically lots of people basically they basically gets the data certain level of data how basically they might be getting that basically is the thing basically so basically they might be 100% getting the data from the universe only basically. That is the satellite group basically that is the basically satellite group basically that means to create one building to create one city lots of people says that it's very easy just we have to tell them basically create 100 cities there create 100 buildings there create 100 buildings there basically but it's not so easy basically and this connects to up to that level basically the 5 crore people basically example I have taken 5 crore people basically um, uh, are basically going to create as a human clone and they basically are going to place it in where which area basically and basically this one project manager also basically we have hired this connects to the one project basically then he told that yes basically that example we remember basically that was a great example basically then one person in the software industry basically told that basically this project manager post basically is a very dangerous post basically then he literally told them basically you are creating project prime minister presidents chief ministers MLAs Now previously your task was basically uh, create login screen, create a login authentication screen, create payroll structure basically, create employee registration screen, create ERB screen basically, like a customer relationship management screen. That basically contains create the customer screen basically, customer registration screen, create the customer billing screen basically, create the customer invoice screen, create the customer general billing screen basically. Like this basically that time basically it was. Now basically the project manager basically tells that basically our basically task has totally changed here basically. They basically told that basically uh, they are telling that create a prime minister, create president, create chief ministers. Like this basically they basically, because this post basically 100%, this post basically 100% will be there basically. And that basically I'm not telling that each and every project managers are connected with this post only. That means one person told that basically the project managers which they hire basically they come under this person basically. Then he told that might be possible, yeah, basically, because for each and every post basically comes under some person, right? Some groups basically, some categories are there basically, and they are basically controlled by set of businessmen basically. It might be possible that businessman basically might be the project manager. Then he told that basically, yes, basically you are correct, yeah. Like this basically things are basically there. So one person told that basically how the building costing basically are decided. Then he told that basically this way the costing basically are decided, yeah. And one person told that basically it's not so easy to have the costing also basically. This is the number, and then basically you can't say that basically this much costing basically this costing is okay, this costing is not okay. Like this basically it's very difficult. It's not so easy to tell the costing of the one building basically. Then basically the costing of the each and every flat also, that's basically more dangerous task basically, because that's connects to the number basically. That means whatever energy they are going to generate from that from that room basically, that is going to connect to that number only basically in the universe basically. That means whatever things basically is going to happen to his body, whatever things basically is going to happen to his head, whatever things basically is going to happen to his eye, that each and everything basically is going to generate from that number only basically. That number basically gives you the energy. That floor basically I'm telling you, that flat basically, that number basically gives you the energy basically, and that number only takes the energy basically. So your data basically are categorized basically, you can say. And this basically is the one of the great project basically for the software industry basically. And here basically just now basically we generated one more project basically, that is in which number of in universe basically the particular building basically is connected, and how basically this building costing basically has taken by which supreme court, which high court, and that high court basically has allocated this data to which group basically. Then they told that basically that is the chartered accountant group, that basically we don't know basically. Then he told that basically you should know basically, because whenever basically any decision basically happens against you, then basically you should know basically that how to clear up. Then basically they told that basically we basically can't track because everything is computerized. So how basically we can track? Previously there was basically we were able to track that, but nowadays it's a computerized data basically. From where each and every things are basically handled, that basically we don't know. That is basically computerized basically. Then he told that basically yes, but ultimately you only suffered. Then he told that yes, here basically. So like this basically the each and every costing data basically are approved basically. Like this the each and every costing data basically are getting approved. So like this basically the chartered accountant groups, account industry, all basically connects here basically with the set of characters and with the set of numbers basically. So here basically the thing I told her basically is which this is basically commercial sector, right? And which connected to numbers and set of characters basically. Set of characters means word basically. In word basically, for example, in chartered accountant, basically you can't use the word like biology, zoology. This whole logic basically word basically you can't use. Why? Because in commerce basically This word basically are never used basically. So in commerce basically which word are used? Auditing, accounting, balance sheet, trade sheet, trade center, e-commerce, like this, all basically words are basically used. Finance basically can be used in science also basically. But this all are the word basically which we are using basically, which the commerce groups basically are using. Then one of the person basically Infosys basically told that basically there is basically we don't take BCom people basically. Then basically he might be knowing there might be some problem basically. He thought that basically there he might be tracked that way. That means one person told that basically we should contact Infosys basically. Why basically is not taking the project of BCom people basically. No, it means why he's not taking the people of BCom basically. So like this, basically one person contacted him and basically and they told us basically. Then basically slowly basically he told the history basically of the Karnataka and Sanskrit people basically. Yeah, basically yeah, I know yeah basically each and everything basically. This costing also basically I know basically how they calculate it yeah basically. Then basically I thought basically I should escape from this basically the I should just concentrate on my industry only basically because I know basically I'm basically IIT I am person basically, so I know this mathematics or commerce science subject that basically I know because I am master in this basically, but I don't know anything of BCom here. So basically, I can't interfere in this basically. Just see basically we have taken one example of the costing basically, how this calculated basically. If I say that basically this number just allocate to that particular building which is created, then just see basically which kind of issue basically is going to generate. Yes, then basically one person told that you basically know up to very dangerous level here basically. You know up to very dangerous level basically. Then basically he told that basically yeah yeah. But then also basically we are trying to get the project of BCom basically. We have hired lots of chartered accountant. We have hired lots of IAM group basically. From that basically we are going to basically start the project of BCom also basically. So soon, basically, we will be going to launch the project. Basically, we basically have connected up to the universe level, the science, the satellite level. Basically, the costing basically department. Basically, we have literally hired and basically they get the source of costing basically from set of group. Basically, there are lots of ISKCON temple basically groups are there. There are lots of chartered accountant basically people are working. So we are basically connecting that people here basically we are connecting to the fathers, we are connecting to the pops, we are connecting to the Maulanas basically, we are connecting to the set of groups basically, set of the Brahma Kumaris basically, we are connecting to each and every people here. Then basically 100% we will launch the BCom project here. 100% we will launch when we will get the entire information. Just now basically you explained basically 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6, like this basically the project basically sorry the buildings basically 100 buildings are basically there. Then where their basically number has been in which basically area the data is basically allocated of this whole buildings basically. Then one person did the, what about the village people basically? Then they told that they are also allocated, yeah basically they are also, it's not like that basically they are not allocated, they are also allocated in any of the number basically, because their land basically is not costing, they are staying in one land basically, so that land is costing na, basically how much land basically is costing, that basically is going to calculate it na, basically. Then according to that basically they are getting allocation to the particular number basically. So basically one person told that he basically a chartered accountant people basically literally very dangerous people basically. ICW people are also basically very dangerous. How dangerous basically subject is basically, because they are giving the information to Supreme Courts, High Courts. They are giving the information to Supreme Courts, High Courts. This cost is approved, that cost is approved. Like this basically they are doing sign also. They are basically doing sign also basically. Like this basically the Supreme Court and High Courts basically say that we have basically set of groups basically, but we basically lots of people will say that basically then what you are doing here? Then basically they told that basically we don't have the law basically, the section basically. Yes, then they basically told that basically this section basically this contains this all activities if he will do, then basically this all basically data is going to attract. If the he basically doing to generate this energy basically in this building, then basically this section is going to get attract. Like this basically we have calculated each and every section here basically, and then basically we have given our data to the nuclear power company here. We are basically not sitting that idly basically. Lots of people basically will say that costing basically each and every things basically are calculated by CA and ICW. You are just approving the thing basically. Then what you are doing basically? Then literally basically people will ask the question basically. So they told me, then they basically cleared the thing basically. Then they basically told that basically rules and regulation basically we applies to. For example, costing rules and regulation basically are also there basically. That basically if this costing basically is connecting to this number, and if that number is getting wrong basically, then basically it might convert to some issue basically. It might connect to some error basically. So that's why basically lots of software company basically don't take the commercial project basically, because it's not so easy basically. If you have the source basically, then only basically you can get the project. So best source basically, that basically few people says that ISKCON is the best source basically. Few people says that I think Father Church basically, where the church basically lots of father basically are there, and that people basically are there. They are basically good basically. So one person told that each and every educated person basically are connected with the fathers. So fathers basically give the information to them, or basically the that person basically give the information to the father. That basically is the question basically. That basically is the question basically. Literally basically one person asked the question basically. Few people say that father basically might be giving the information. That's why basically these people are going to the church, no basically. Father is not coming to that those people basically. That basically you do one thing. This is the amount. So what should amount? What this amount is good or that amount is good? It's not like that basically. So it can be like that basically. We can't basically tell that basically who takes the decision basically. In basically the Supreme Court or High Court basically, the mixed decisions are basically there. One the section basically decision, then basically the decision of ICW and Chartered Accountant Group basically. They only know the basically the building cost, and the building cost basically which is allocated to which number basically, that they only knows. They only basically knows the each and everything. Then one person told that basically that basically this was about the commerce basically, right? Now basically about the science basically. Science basically says that basically science subject itself basically says that it's a science. Science basically you can say that science basically say that we should have the proof basically. Without proof basically we don't work. For example, this formula is generated, right? Here basically something has happened, so that has happened on the base of certain data basically. Without basically data it has not happened. So that basically is the science basically. So without proof basically you can't say basically that this has happened. So science basically say that these are the all data basically, on the base of data basically this has happened here. So that data basically which they collect in the form of the formulas, in the form of the chemicals, that basically says that they are, that is basically all the science basically. Then one person told that with this human needs basically, this human needs basically like few human needs basically come from the software, few human needs basically comes from the natural, few human basically comes from the chemical side. So these all are basically science. Then he told that basically 100% these all are the science only. Natural means basically zoology department, land department. Then basically the software, then basically software is the chemical departments basically. Software basically generates energy, energy generates the chemicals. That basically is the one department that basically contains in the science department. Then basically the chemical department basically totally different departments are also there. They are also basically generating lots of human needs basically. So this basically comes into the science basically. And science basically says that this building basically which the building which is connecting, that is generating this energy, and that basically is placed to that particular number For that basically number that is basically placed to that number, for that basically we have the proof that this energy is 100% going to generate to that number, that going to basically collect the information basically of this data to that area basically. That means in simple language, the each and every building basically where basically they are going to store their data, that basically where from there the energy is going to come from, where the basically energy is going to come, and where from where the energy is coming basically. For example, you are sitting just now basically, so you might be you basically don't know the from where the energies are coming. Why? Because you only know the power company and the nuclear power company. Then one person told that exactly you are correct. Yeah, that means you want to say the power company and nuclear power company basically had connected to the satellite, and that satellite basically are connected to the set of numbers. It can be basically connected to any languages and basically any symbol also basically. Then he told that 100% you are correct. That basically the numbers energy basically which get generates na, that basically the energy basically comes into the science basically, and they have the proof also basically with the physical location basically, with the physical map basically, with the physical diagram basically, which is physical diagram basically, that basically is approved by the judge, that is basically approved by the supreme courts and the high courts basically. Then one person told that basically what is arts, this diagram basically which has we have drawn, that is basically art, and that basically diagram can basically, it should be exactly same as the diagram in the universe basically. So this a b c d basically ka kha ga basically 1 2 3 number basically, this all basically are arts basically. This basically are drawn by the arts basically. So lots of people says that basically what these arts people are doing there, then these are not basically arts basically. Few basically arts people are directly connected with the universe basically. They say that basically like this type of diagram basically we can draw in the universe basically, and in this diagram basically energy we can put the data of the particular caste people basically. Then he told that okay basically, then he told that basically okay basically like this basically you can put that data basically, like this basically you can put the data basically. Then basically he told that basically that means yeah, science, commerce, and the subject basically, which you have just now told in the education basically, from in which basically area basically the global warming basically you told that 20 percentage basically global warming is coming from the education, right? So how basically you are going to categorize this basically? So that is the next video basically we are going to see. So next video basically we are going to see a little bit more detail about this basically.